Hello and welcome to Spookies, where we go boots on the ground exploring Scotland, hunting for really cool, lesser known or hidden history. Today we're boots on the ground in Dunfermline to share some footage of Dunfermline Abbey for the most part, and that's because I promised back in the St Margaret's Cave video that I'd share some footage we recorded here as we visited them both on the same day with them being so nearby each other. Oh, and there might be a wee extra thing near the end of the video, so hang around if you're interested. Anyway, let's get to the Abbey. Hello again, my name's Stephen and welcome to the impressive Dunfermline Abbey. You've probably noticed that we're walking through a graveyard. Indeed, quite a few notable people are said to have had burials here, including the legendary Robert the Bruce, whose body is said to be buried inside, below the words King Robert the Bruce around the tower high above. In case you didn't know, Robert the Bruce was a Scottish king best known for leading Scotland to independence back in 1328. If this really is his exact resting spot has been recently challenged though, as it is uncertain whether those are actually his remains. You see, the remains were discovered during foundation work on an 1818 addition to the building. This part you're seeing right now actually, so the story goes, and at the time were said to be that of Robert the Bruce. Subsequently, they say the tower was redesigned to incorporate the words above in memory of he who was buried below. There's now a commemorative plaque where he's said to be buried, but sadly we didn't get to see this ourselves as we didn't get to this part of the building on this visit. We'll be back though, and we did get a look inside the older part, so don't worry. Also buried here, or reburied here after an original burial in England, was King Malcolm III of Scotland, husband to St Margaret of Scotland, the same St Margaret from our buried cave video mentioned earlier. In fact, she's meant to be the reason all of this is here really, as the original priory that stood here was said to have been founded by her all the way back in 1070, can you believe it? Apparently on the site where she married Malcolm III. That was then built upon greatly when the priory was upgraded to an abbey in 1128 by King David I of Scotland, and was greatly altered again between 1818 and 1821, with this apparent newer section that we've been looking at, featuring the tower honouring Robert the Bruce. Wow. Sadly, despite Malcolm being reburied alongside Margaret all the way back then, their bodies were later exhumed, and their whereabouts are largely unknown now. I think it's interesting to consider that none of this would have been here if Margaret didn't establish that priory all the way back in 1070. So the story goes, anyway. Even so, to think that some parts of this building date back to around 1128 is absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, just look at the quality of some of this stuff. Amazing, right? Anyway, we're not here to delve too much into the history, and I promised to look around this place, so let's keep going. What's over there like?
Just have a look. Nice.
Now before we get a closer look, I thought this was a good moment to point out the different building stages, as it's all quite clear to see here. On the right, you can see what we're told was the newer part, said to have been built between 1818 and 1821, and on the left is the older part, This part is said to have originated in some form from 1128. Right enough, if we take a look at some old images of the Abbey, we can see that the 1818 section is missing. Spookies regular Richard Pocock also didn't make any mention of this section from his 1760 visit. Pocock, who was an English clergyman and writer, describes the structure he saw. Quote, "The walls of the towers and the church are crowned with projecting battlements like a castle. The tower was built with a spire that has windows in it. The south tower seems to have been taken down to the height of the walls of the church on account of a great crack in the west end, which might be made by their opening a Gothic window. There's a round window over the door divided into 4 compartments by a cross. The windows consist of 3 members. The grand door to the west of 5. The cornice all around is adorned with heads. There were 2 towers on each side of the middle of the transept. One of them fell down about 6 years ago, and I suppose the other was pulled down." End quote. Quite amazing, eh? I think it's interesting how he points out parts of the building have fell down, really showing its age. I also thought I'd mention that Pocock dates this older structure to 1120 rather than the 1128 that's common online. I realise that the 1128 is referenced as circa, but I thought it was interesting to point this out, as it suggests the structure was already pretty big by the time David I made it an abbey in 1128, rather than it expanding due to being made an abbey. Or maybe Pocock just misheard 28 for 20. Personally, I think both of these are mighty impressive for their time period. I mean, even though this is said to be newer, it's still 1818. It's absolutely incredible, isn't it? Imagine the work needed to create that all the way back then. Amazing. Anyway, I'm going to stop yapping on so we can get back to looking around. And right off the mark, look who we found. A wee bit wildlife taking a break. Because it wouldn't be a Spookies video without a wee bit wildlife, would it? This one, a wee bit wildlife. It's mental, eh? Wow. So those like pillars going up the middle. So would have supported the ceiling then. That's wild, eh? You could actually imagine what it looked like. It's a big stone beast. This place is pretty impressive, eh? Yo yo. Back again, and I just wanted to point out these faint lines that you might be able to make out on the sides here that made it appear like there maybe used to be a roof here at some point. And indeed that was the case, meaning this awesome doorway must have been out of sight for ages, at least from the outside of the building. And we know this because this nearby plaque here says, "This vault was reduced in size in 1905 by consent of Sir Henry Wardlaw Bart, to expose to view the ancient Norman doorway adjoining." How cool's that, eh? Cheers for letting us enjoy the view. And here's what that bit might have looked like when it was covered up, as this is the bit that still remains from that wee cupboard. Pretty cool. Anyway, let's keep moving. You can tell a difference in the way they built it. And as we keep moving, we pass more of these buttresses before reaching the entrance where you can actually go in the church and take a look around. Now we are going to come back to get a look inside, but first we're going to continue looking around outside, starting with this incredible doorway. This angle really gives a good look at the older part of the building. And these arches are something else, eh? When you zoom in on it, you can actually see all the wee patterns that's been carved into it. There's many different ones, and even some faces if you look carefully. Drawing from the Annals of Dunfermline, Dunfermline Abbey, a brief guide describes these, saying, "The large stones of the several arches are exposed to view, showing their beautiful designs, some being a continuation of zigzags, others floriated and otherwise ornamented. The first or outer arch stones are 26 in number, on 11 of which are carved heads." End quote. We actually spent ages going around this place as there's lots to see. So now we're going to jump to a few interesting spots before returning to this church to get a look inside. Before we do though, here's a final look at those arches from below. Amazing, right? Sounds like Becky and the birds thought that guy's cough was a bit of a laugh. Anyway, as I mentioned, we're going to jump around and highlight a few places now, and the first is just a short walk down this hill from the church here. How great is it to see these old ruins up close? It really shows the full scale that this structure once had, don't you think? Anyway, as we keep heading through, you'll see these lovely stone vaulted ceilings. Just a taste of what's to come. Look at this old wire pipe. That's mad, eh? As we keep moving through, we arrive to this area here. And this is actually the area that we were looking down to from above earlier on. From here, we took another route back up to the church. The old train. Once back up here, we made our way to the area of the Abbey that is in ruins for a closer look. You have to pay to get in this bit, but there was lots of things to see. Here we are. Jeez Louise. Oh, it's not away. It's not too bad.
Oh my god. No way.
Depends how claustrophobic you are.
I'm quite a bit.
That's it, done. Despite just going down all those stairs, there are points here that shows how high up we actually are, looking out to Pittencrieff Park where the Tower Burn flows through. There's a river down there, of course standard. The Tower Burn is the same river that passed St Margaret's Cave back in the day and still does via a tunnel, now the cave is beneath a car park. You can check out in our underground cave video if you're interested. I think it's interesting to note how nearby they are, as St Margaret's visits from here to the cave are how the cave is said to have got its name. Oh my. That'd be a good part to explore. What do you think?
Maybe we should just come back to them.
Yeah. Indeed, we'll need to get a wee look down there sometime. I bet there's some amazing views of this place for there. Anyway, as we kept looking around, we came to this room that's still intact, showing more of those stone vaulted ceilings like earlier. So, as you can probably imagine, we'd spent so much time already and hadn't even looked inside the main church yet, so we decided we'd better get a move on. On the way though, I really wanted to grab a look at these ruined pieces that they have on display. Some of them are very mysterious and also very impressive. What do you make of them? Look at that one. It's like he's got a tongue. I believe these are some sort of gargoyles used to direct rainwater away from the building. How fascinating is some of this stuff, right? Makes you really wonder what we've lost. Anyway, we're finally going to get a look inside the old part of the church, so let's get right to it. So what do you make of these pillars? I love how different they are to all the other ones here. I also love that, once again, we're looking at something that Richard Pocock, the English clergyman and writer that we mentioned earlier, looked at all the way back in 1760. As he describes in a letter to his sister, the pillars are large, and the pair to the east are adorned with lines that twist around, and the next with half lozenges with lines on each in shape of the head of a spear. End quote. Amazing, right? And remember, that's from Pocock's letter from over 260 years ago. Historic Environment Scotland says that the Romanesque pillars are similar to those found in Durham Cathedral in England, and it's likely that the same masons carved them. Is that the case, or do you think any parts of this structure could have its roots in a possible old world, as we always like to consider? Places like this always do make me wonder, and there's clearly been many stages of repairs and patchwork here and there, so it's difficult to tell. I do find it interesting to see how much ruin there was for so long though, with evidence of once grand structures now just crumbs of their former self, as seen in a lot of the art, and descriptions that I read anyway. Were they something really early, already ruined and grown over and then built upon? Unlikely, I know, but I like to think out loud. Nonetheless, I think this place is mighty impressive. I mean, just look at some of this stuff. Amazing. And as mainstream history tells, it's one of Scotland's most important places. I hope you enjoyed our little tour around the Abbey, and thanks for joining us. It's been a wee bit different, with more looking around and less hunting for history, but I said I'd share this footage, so here it is. And please consider sharing your thoughts in the comments. Oh, and look what we found right up our street, a nice wee creepy pub to rest after all that walking about. Now, there was another place that we went walking about last year, but sadly the footage didn't turn out too great, not enough for a full video anyway. So, I thought we'd share it here as a wee Spookies treat since it's been a while. This was from a visit to Falkirk, where we had some time to kill, so we decided to visit Scotland's longest canal tunnel, as you do. Wow. Flippy. Here's Becky standing next to what's known today as the Falkirk Tunnel, which is said to have been completed all the way back in 1822, just 1 year after they were said to have finished building this. What a coincidence, eh? Anyway, as I mentioned earlier, most of the footage didn't turn out too great. It was either too dark or too shaky. But we do have some to share so you can at least see what it was like on the inside, as we walked through all 630 metres of it. And back again, of course. So let's go take a look. It's gonna be slippy, mate. So take your time. Ho ho ho. Wow. There you go. Pretty cool, right? Check this. You can really see them there. Cool. Wow.
I wonder if these formations have got names.
Yeah. What they know that.
Is it fingers?
That is something else.
I'm touch a bottle of water.
I know, yeah. How awesome is that? Some sort of flowstone or stalactite or something. Amazing. It was actually somewhere around this point that we really started to appreciate just how far this tunnel goes. So, we decided we better keep up the pace. About halfway. Nah, we're not even halfway yet. Let's get a move on. Wow. Look at that, a wee giraffe. Who managed to get that there? Well done. You alright? So, as you can probably tell, we had been caught up by some noisy haggis, so we let them pass before making our way back through the tunnel. Oh, and look, a wee bit more wildlife. Some swans. And they just happen to be going in the direction that we are travelling back through the tunnel. How lucky is that? Alright, buddies. Wow. See all the wee hack marks. Cool, eh? I'm just passing by. Cool tunnel, eh? How do you mean?
Oh, look down, it's like you can see the bottom.
I know. Look. What a place, right? And just in case you're interested, the tunnel itself was said to have been made after construction started on a canal in 1818 to better link the capital city, Edinburgh, with the west of Scotland. Unfortunately, when it came to Falkirk, the landowner of nearby Callender House, William Forbes, campaigned to Parliament against it, stating it would have ruined the view from his house. It's also been claimed that the infamous Scottish duo Burke and Hare worked as labourers in the tunnel's construction, with sources claiming that working on the tunnel is the whole reason they came to Scotland from Ireland in the first place. If you didn't know, Burke and Hare were a couple of body snatchers who worked together robbing graves and selling their bodies to Dr. Robert Knox's anatomy school. Naturally, this story's inspired several books and movies, and as you may already know or have guessed, they turned to murder, killing 16 people that we know of. Anyway, back to this tunnel. Since they couldn't destroy William Ford's private views, they blasted through Prospect Hill instead, creating the 630 metre long tunnel. So the story goes.
Way out there.
Cool, eh? Oh well, we did it. Get that. So here we are back at the end of the tunnel and at the end of this video, I'm afraid. If you did like it, please do click that wee like button or maybe subscribe to check out some of our others. And don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments. Cheers! There's some great stuff coming, so hopefully you'll see me there. All the best and cheerio! Cheerio!